Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome to our call for tonight. And we are going to be recording the live masterclass for you. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to write them there in the box. Hello, Gail. And we're going to cover PLR rebranding, and we're going to do this from a different perspective than maybe you've heard before, but it is, I think it's probably the truest thing that you're going to be able to teach your customers. And so sometimes when we teach rebranding of PLR, everything that I'm going to be telling you tonight, what happens is these things are assumed. So in other words, if I tell you that you need to rebrand your PLR by changing the graphics, by changing the title, by adding a bonus, you know what all that assumes? And all that assumes is that you have a brand. And so what we have to do is we have to get underneath that, and we have to teach from the perspective of most people don't have the brand. And so we need to be able to teach your customers from that perspective, because quite honestly, if you have the brand right, the graphics and changing the title is really incidental. And I'll, give you an example of that. And I always use the example of Tony Robbins or Oprah Winfrey just because they're really famous. And quite honestly, if they were to go out and they were to sell something that was private labeled that someone else did, all they would have to do is recommend it, is because they already have the brand in place. They already have the foundation in place. That doesn't mean that you have to be Oprah or Tony Robbins. What it does mean is that the concept is you've got to build the brand first, and then you've got to then decide how you're going to leverage the work of other people. And the work of other people is obviously the private label rights content. So we're going to teach that from that perspective. And so that I don't lose my voice before it gets started, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So have any questions as we go along, please feel free to write them there in the box, and I will get to them. And let me just make sure that I have my screen showing the right thing, and it is. And let's go ahead. Let's talk about the foundations for rebranding PLR content. We are going to be teaching foundational principles before we get to the point where we're talking about changing titles, before we're talking about redoing graphics, and those are not part of this. You've probably been taught those things already, and they're fairly technical and mechanical. And quite honestly, you can outsource those things. What we're talking about are the things that are really going to matter, the things that are really going to impact your income if you're using PLR, and the things that you need to understand before you undertake the process. Undertaking the process of redoing graphics or changing titles or adding your own particular spin or even adding a bonus before you do the things we're going to talk about here, they're really not going to make the impact on your income or on the sales of a particular product or service. So we want to talk about these things that are going to impact once you have put them in place and once you have these foundations right. Let's first talk about what branding is. It's what you want to be known for. So you have to have something that you're going to be probably known exactly for in a particular marketplace or sub market or niche. Branding should say something about how you're positioned. So if you're going to say that you're the best at something, or you're the first at something, or you're fast at something, that's a positioning statement. So what you're really talking about is how you're going to be positioned in the marketplace against other people. Now, it doesn't mean that you're always going to be in competition, but what it does mean is that you're saying something about your business or your brand or whatever you're selling, that I should come to you to get it over and above everybody else. And so you've got to be able to do that with whatever you're selling. So you go to the marketplace, and when you make a branding statement, you need to be able to say right now, hey, Mr. Purchaser, Miss Purchaser, you need to purchase this from me because you're going to get this unique thing. So it could be what you sell. Branding could be based on exactly what you sell. You sell something different from everybody else in the marketplace. It could be the way you do business. So it could be that you are the absolute fastest in your particular market or niche. It could be that you are the most technical person. in your market or niche. It could be that you are the most patient person and that your team is the most patient group of people that are going to be dealing in your market or niche. It could be that way, and you could brand around that. It could be the way you deliver service. Disney is known for that. And basically, when you do something with Disney, you probably expect that you're going to get some over an abundance of service. That's just in that particular part of the marketplace. Probably not going to be in other things they're involved in, right? But if you were to go to their park, if you were to visit one of their properties, the thing that they're known for is their customer service, and that they go over the top, and then they charge a premium for that. So basically, you want to be able to come to a market or niche. You want to be unique like Disney. You could be unique in the way you deliver some kind of service. And what you want in your brand is for it to stick in people's mind whenever you're mentioned. So whenever your business or your brand is mentioned, you want them, that customer, to think of something that you do. And so, and again, this takes a long time to establish. But before you really start working on turning your PLR into something specific, one of the things you have to do is you've got to consider, what do you want to be known for after people buy this product, when they mention the fact that when they think about the fact that they got it from you. And it doesn't have to be something mysterious. All it has to be is something that sticks in the customer's mind and something that's unique to your business or your brand. It should have to be based on whatever. It should be factual. It should be a proven fact, whatever it is that you're going to brand around. And to the naked eye, it should be based on what people can see. So in other words, there should be no guessing at what your brand is. If you're going to be positioned against somebody else and you're going to say that you've got to come to me for this particular part of, whatever the sub niche or market is, it should be plain. It should be easy to see if you're going to be branding around it. And it doesn't matter what you say about yourself. It only matters what your customer perceives about you or the market perceives about you. So you've got to make your brand clear in the marketplace in the way that it's going to be real to a customer, or it's got to be real to a set of customers, or it's got to be real to prospective customers. And all it's got to be is real in people's minds. It doesn't have to be real in any other way. So it's got to be real in other people's minds. It does not even have to be, unfortunately, and I don't say this because I want you to do this or because I expect you to do this. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be true. What it has to be is true to a customer in their mind. Sometimes you can go to a particular customer, and if you talk to someone and they may think a company's service is great, and then you go look at the reviews and everybody else had a bad experience. But in that customer's mind, the service was great because they had a great experience. They would go back again. You got to be that kind of certain about your brand so that whatever's going to stick in the customer's mind is going to be true to them. And you got to make it true to them and as many of your customers as you can. How do you establish this? So how do you get this from being something that you talk about and actually in somebody's brain? How do you get that so that it becomes your operating principle when it comes to how you do business? You got to be careful about building this brand before you start selling. Now, please do not hold off on launching products until you establish a brand. That is not what I'm saying. You do have to be intentional though about what you're building. You got to be intentional about what you're saying. You got to be intentional about how you're putting and making yourself to be perceived in the marketplace, because you want what the customer perceives to be based on what they see and experience. So when you make a sale, when a customer goes through your marketing funnel, when a customer goes to your thank you page, all of that is going to be, it's going to build that customer's perception. And it's got to be, everything has got to be really based on what you want that customer to see and experience. And you've got to make that central to what it is you're going to say about yourself. What matters for you, right, the business owner, is what is selling right now. What matters for you is what's selling for you repeatedly. So in other words, anybody can make a sale once or twice. What can you get to sell repeatedly? Because what you can get to sell repeatedly by customers over and over again, that will eventually be your brand. What's not going to be your brand is what you say about yourself. What is going to be your brand is what people perceive enough to buy from you over and over again. When I say repeatedly, I really mean customers who buy from you a second or third time, the same customer. So that is really what is going to matter when you are building a brand, and specifically if you're building an online business brand. And of course, it needs to be repeatedly profitably. If I'm going to give away everything every time to all customers, that's not sustainable and that's not profitable. So yes, I could take everything in the world and give it away to every customer and have them and not charge them a whole lot for it. Well, I could get that to sell repeatedly, but I couldn't do it profitably. So basically, what you can get to sell repeatedly, profitably, over and over again to the same customer is ultimately how you're going to build a brand. It's not what you say about yourself, right? It's what the customer perceives in terms of what they're getting in value and what they bring to your business when they buy from you over and over again. Once you determine what this is, and you may have to go through a few sales cycles, you may have to go through selling products over and over again before you figure out why customers are buying from you over and over again. And you may have to stumble over this. You're not going to know up front. You've just got to be careful and intentional about building it. But for a while, you could be wrong. And it's okay to be wrong as long as you're course correcting all the time. A brand does not instantly fall out of the sky. Many times it's going to be an iteration over and over again before you get it right, before you actually state what your customer is actually perceiving. So you don't know at first. You don't really have an idea of what this is. You were building this over time, and you're building this based on what you're selling repeatedly, profitably, and then you're getting an understanding why the customer's coming back to you, and then you're stating that to the marketplace because that's really what's getting people to buy over and over again. Please do not always assume that the answer is because you're cheapest. Don't sell that way. Because if you're going to be the cheapest, you are going to have to be the Walmart of whatever your business or brand is. And basically, you're going to have to be the biggest, the fastest, and the cheapest. And sometimes that's not going to be sustainable. Now, again, I'm not saying that you cannot do it. In other words, if you're an information brand, if you're selling information, that you can give people the most, right? You can have a bunch of bunch of stuff outsourced. You can just pile stuff on people, and some people will buy from you specifically from that angle. It is not sustainable. For any information marketer that will tell you it is not sustainable to do business that way, I suggest you do not compete on the basis of price and on the basis of volume and stuff, or heft, as I call it. More often than not, over time, you will get people to come back to you because of the way you do business. And that's really what is sustainable because it's unique to you. So you got to build a brand of people that are coming back to you over and over again so that it's profitable to you because people like the way you do business. And again, please do not feel like if I can't do this right now, if you're not doing this right now, or if it's not happening for you right now, or customers are just kind of buying from you because you got the most stuff right now, you're not quite there, where they're coming to you because they like the way you do business, that's a bad thing. Listen, it is a growth, it's an iteration, but you need to know what you're shooting for. And what you're shooting for and what the ultimate goal is that you want people to come to you because of the way because they like the way you do business. That is what you want. That is what you're building when you are working toward building a brand. So you got to determine the why for your brand. And this really does go beyond branding. Before you establish the brand and people to trust you, you've got to determine what your unique selling proposition is. This is basically the why. So in other words, when we start talking about people coming back to you over and over again, repeatedly, profitably, we're doing this because we want people to come back to us for a specific reason. And this is the USP. This is the unique selling proposition. And once again, it may take you time before you can state this. It may take you time before you can state this publicly to the marketplace that, hey, this is the reason I think you should come back to me versus all of these other people that are doing what I do, or people that are doing like what I do. A USP is vital to all your product releases. It's also vital to your brand. Once you determine what your USP is, there are two parts to the equation. What's the first? You might have to change how you do business. So in other words, if a customer's coming to you because they like a certain aspect, you might have to change how you're doing stuff in order to give your customer more of that because you know that's attracting people and it's keeping people, and it's bringing people back to you a second and third time. So again, just because you brought something to the marketplace doesn't mean that you have to stay there or that you should. If you start getting traction and you start getting sales because people are coming to you for a specific reason, and you know that, and you, whether or not it is because you've done surveys or you've actually talked to your customer, what may have to happen is you may have to change how you're doing business, because you want to ultimately give people more of what it is that's bringing people back to you over and over again. It also means that you may have to change what you're saying about yourself. So, in other words, if you find out, again, through trial and error, through talking to customers, through making sales, through losing sales, you might have to change what you're saying about yourself. So please do not think that you are stuck at, whatever your branding statement is today, that you got to be stuck there. You're going to have to adjust it. So, a branding statement, or, where you think you are in the market or how you're positioned, you might have to adjust. And then I'm going to say you need to adjust, and you need to be willing to adjust. And I'm not even talking about market conditions. I'm not even talking about when the niche changes. I'm talking just about the fact of you discovering why customers or prospects like you and your business. Now, your USP, your unique selling proposition, when you state it, when you go public with it, and this is why you need to be careful about it, you're going to turn some people off. So some people are going to say, you know what, that's not what I want from you. That's not what I want in this sub-market or niche. I'll go to somebody else who has a little bit more of what I like. Now, that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. Getting people turned away from you, it's a good thing. You want some people to come to you specifically for your USP, and you might turn some people away who are actually thinking about buying from you, or who are actually already buying from you. When you start doing business differently and you start stating why you're doing that, some people are going to run from you, even though you could stand to have those sales. And it's not a bad thing. You know why? Because everybody can't be your customer. And it's a good day when you discover this. It's a not so good day when you lose a customer because of it. But again, for every customer you lose, typically you're going to get one specifically because you state that USP and you're clear about it and you were true to it, and it's the way you do business. The sooner you declare who is your customer, the faster you can start to attract people that like what you do and how you do it. And most people don't, because you're trying to hang on to everybody. But if you can't state openly what you want to do for somebody, you're never going to attract anybody apart from the rest of the market, what the market's attracting. You need to be able to go to the market, make a statement, and attract people who can get what it is that you're able to deliver uniquely. Let's talk about rebranding your PLR in this context. Now, I'm glad I've given you the subcontext. I want to talk specifically about PLR. We're then going to go back to branding, because this is really why you're here. You can change the nature of your PLR content, whether it's a product or membership, or the rules that I'm about to say to you don't matter. So it doesn't matter whether you're creating it for product, or you're getting it for your content, or you're getting to put in your membership. All these rules I'm about to state to you are the same. If you change the nature of your PLR content just to change graphics or titles, doing that stuff alone is not going to change your sales. So it's not going to make you sell anymore just because you change the title, or you change the color and all of those things, or you change it to your brand colors. Those things alone are not going to increase your sales. The most important aspect of the sales process is how you're positioned. So in other words, if I come to the market and I want to get something on Facebook, and you've got PLR content on Facebook, and you change the graphics, and you change the copy, and you've added a bonus, yeah, you're going to get some people. But are those people going to come back to you over and over again? Probably not, unless there is a reason that they need to come back to you specifically to do it, because they're indifferent to getting it. They just want stuff on Facebook. Do they want it from you, or do they want it just Facebook from anybody? So again, this is really going to matter if you can go to the marketplace and be somebody specific that people need to get things from them, right? How are people going to receive what it is that you're saying about yourself in promotion? What are they going to think about what you're presenting to them? And assuming that you've bought PLR, right? And you've got this PLR to help you with something specific, you need to have these foundations in place before that PLR is really going to do for you what you needed to do for you to give you the leverage that you really did when you actually bought it. What you got to do, and this is going to be the most important thing, and what we're going to say tonight, you got to bring your PLR into what your customer believes about your business. And I'm going to restate that. You have to drag your PLR into what your customer, whether it is your future customer or your present customer, believes about your business. So, in other words, what do they believe about you that they're going to be? Because ultimately, people are not buying your stuff, they're buying from you, right? They're buying from a person. So, what does the market believe about you? What does the market believe about your business? What does the market believe about what you offer? Do they believe that you are the person with the, with the most knowledge? Are they going to believe that you are the person with the contacts? Are they going to believe that you're the person that is the most consistent? Are they going to believe that you are the person who is going to make sure that they get success regardless? You then bring your PLR into that context. So whatever it is that you want the customer to perceive about your business, that is the context you bring your PLR into. When you do this, you're always going to know what to change about the graphics. So again, the graphics are incidental. Till you know that, till you know what you want the customer to believe about your business, how you change the graphics is incidental, right? You're going to know what you need to add to the content. Anything else is a guessing game. So if you're trying to slant it toward, let's say, freelancers or whatever you're trying to do, those things are incidental until you know what you want a customer to perceive about you and your business. What you're doing, right, when you do this, right, if what you're doing is you're getting it and you're just making changes to it, you're trying to get to the market fast, it's a speed strategy, right? Traditional PLR rebranding, as it has been taught in the past, is a speed strategy. I've got to hurry up and get this redone. I've got to hurry up and get it on my server. I've got to hurry up and get it up and running. And I've got to hurry up and get it out to the marketplace. You've got to do that with speed. Like that's the strategy if that's what you're doing. If you're trying to get to the market first, right? What you're trying to do is you're racing the clock to get there before somebody else does. That's really your strategy, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get there with the best bonus, the fastest with your pricing before somebody else gets there and somebody else sees the same thing that you're doing. And again, I'm not saying that there's anything particularly wrong with doing it that way. It's just hard to sustain. If that's what your perception is with getting a PLR product, and I got to hurry up and get it out to the marketplace so that I can beat everybody else to it, that's unsustainable, right? You don't want to do business that way because you're ultimately going to be doing business on the basis of price. There will always be somebody willing to sell something cheaper than you're willing to sell it. So you might go to the market. I'm gonna drop this to $4.95. You know what? Somebody sees that working. You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna drop it to $3.95. Somebody sees you selling at $3.95. You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna say, I'm gonna give it to you for $2.99. I'm gonna give you twice as much. So again, you don't need to be in a race to the bottom, right? There's always going to be, and again, and also, don't try to pile on. Don't try to compete solely. I'm not saying not to do this at all. I'm not saying pricing doesn't matter, but please do not try to compete with your PLR solely on the basis of adding the most bonuses. There will always be somebody who's going to be willing to add more bonuses to whatever it is that you're trying to offer, right? That's not necessarily the way. You're going to need to find a gap in the marketplace, right? For your brand. I'm not talking about the product right now. I'm talking about your brand, right? So the key is you need to find a gap in the marketplace so that you can take that gap, so that you're doing something that other people are not going to do, they can't do, and that they don't do. That's what a USP really does to your brand at the brand level. You're doing something as an information marketer that other people cannot do, that they won't do even if they could do it, and that they don't do even if they could do it, and that they would do it, but they just don't do it. You've got to go in and you've got to fill market gaps at that level. It means that people have got to come to you for it if they want it in that way that which you offer it. So listen, rebranding PLR, again, is more than changing the stuff to it. It's more than changing titles. It's more than adding in your affiliate links. It's more than that, right? It's adding some kind of X factor. So you got to have some kind of X factor you can bring to something before you go to the marketplace, because you're trying to reach customers like yours. And when you're building an audience, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get that audience ready to receive your X factor. So again, all of this is going to take time to do, but all you're doing is you're going to a marketplace, you're filling a gap, you're trying to get somebody to listen to you based on what you provide, and that is how you leverage PLR. When you have an audience that's coming to you because of what you provide, you can do anything with PLR that you want, right? And a lot of what people are spending their time on when it comes to PLR, you won't have to worry about that stuff. What you should be working on is the brand. That is what you need to be working on. What is the brand? What is the gap in the marketplace? Where do I belong? What am I trying to do? Because listen, any other way of trying to rebrand is short term and less certain. Because if all you're trying to do is beat people to the marketplace, you're trying to beat people to the punch, you're trying to get there faster, you can make sales, but you're not going to make them long term because you got to outrun everybody. If you try to do what I'm talking about now, which is build an audience that's familiar the way you do business, that's longer term and more certain because nobody else can do it quite like you do, and because customers are coming to you because of the way you do it. Let's talk about rebranding with product delivery. We want to get into the foundation now. I've talked about kind of your mindset when it comes to PLR. I do want to talk about how you're going to execute these fundamentals. What are these foundations? One way you can rebrand is with the way you deliver the product. And I've talked about Dr. Lisa Lang, who is a student of the person that wrote The Goal. And sometimes what you've got to be thinking about is, how can I compete in a way other people can't that I can sustain? So in other words, yeah, I can probably come to the marketplace in a certain way, but how can I do it differently than everybody else in a way that's sustainable for me? You got to build a brand around something that people can't copy. Now, again, it's hard with an information marketing business, but that is really what your brand is trying to do. And sometimes you're going to lean more toward getting to the marketplace and seeing the gap. And yeah, somebody's going to come in behind you. They're going to copy you. But when you go in first and you're going in with the way that you're doing business, it's always going to be hard to come after you if they're trying to copy the way you're delivering products. Now, when you deliver a product in a certain way that other people just will not do or they can't do, that's really hard for somebody to come behind you and try to do it in the very same way that you do it. And again, you can always innovate after that point. Now, here's where I might lose you, but I do think you need to be consider this. And this is something that Dan Kennedy says, and it's contrary to what you may want to think. Typically, people have said that you want to do business in a simple way. That's true to some extent. What you really need to be doing is you've really got to do business in a way that other people cannot copy. So basically, when you start talking about the way you're putting things together and the way you deliver things, it should be something that's, first of all, different, and it should be complex. So when somebody comes to think, well, I'm going to copy what they're doing, they should be thinking twice about the way that's going to be. Now, again, it's not going to be apparent to you until you get into the marketplace, you start making sales. But as you start putting together how you're going to deliver to a customer and what you're going to give them and what you are going to give them in order to get success, right, for the price you're asking, it should be difficult to deliver. And it should be difficult to deliver because only you can deliver it because you've got a unique set of skills, you've got a unique set of teammates, you've got a unique set of partners, and you are the only one that can deliver this in this way, so that when somebody tries to come behind you and do the very same thing, they can't do it. So one way you can rebrand is with the way you deliver your product or your service. Now, in order to do that, you might have to change some things. Right? You might have to change some things to deliver something in a way that a customer wants it, and it's always going to be difficult to do. The systems, because if you can go out and get it with existing systems, and anybody would do it. Sometimes you might have to pay someone to create a patch, right, to deliver something in a way that other people cannot deliver. That's the way these things happen. if you are already in the marketplace and you say, you know what, this particular membership platform doesn't do quite what I need to do for my customer, or this particular this particular content delivery system doesn't actually do it the way I need to do it. That's a good thing, because you need to come up with the solution. You might have to design a solution, and then you might have to go to the marketplace in order to satisfy your customer, because existing systems do not do what you need them to do. If you're finding that, you're at a good place, because you know the market needs it. You might have to go and figure out how to design it. You might have to partner with someone to help you to design something, to deliver something to a customer that other people cannot deliver because the market's not doing it. Because if anybody could do it, it's going to be easy to copy, right? And if you do something that you designed, that you're giving the customer what they want, that other people can't do, it's going to be really hard for people to come behind you. And that is what I call a sustainable competitive advantage, right? So you're basically uniquely satisfying your customer. You're creating satisfaction and separation in an area that you can become excellent in. And it's where you develop innovation. That's really where this game is. There isn't a whole lot of information in information marketing. There's not a whole lot of innovation in it, because basically, and you understand why that is, because people go and get existing systems to deliver the same thing other people are delivering, right? And so you are probably going to come to the marketplace. You're going to see something. You're going to say, you know what? Why is nobody doing that? And I know customers would appreciate that, and customers are telling you they want it this way, but they're not. There's not anything, and there's not a way for you to give it to people, because there's nothing out there that will help you to do it. You need to figure out how to design a way to deliver it. Now, are you taking risk? Yes, but you are also creating something that will give you a sustainable competitive advantage. And what I do not have in this presentation is that when you are creating that sustainable advantage, you're doing it over and over again. Let's say that the bet you make doesn't work and the customer is not really crazy about it, but you created something unique. You create a unique way of delivering something that's not in the marketplace. You know what you do with that solution? You then go and sell it to other marketers, right? You go and sell it to other people, right? So if you are able to deliver something and deliver something uniquely, and it doesn't work for your particular customer, don't worry about it. That's when you take that back to the marketplace and you sell it as a solution to the other players in the market. So there's never anything lost when you do this. So just so you know, you can rebrand with product delivery. You can rebrand the way you promote. Change the way you teach, right? So that your customers understand, right, that what it is that you're saying they need to do to be successful. Change the way you present yourself in the marketplace. There's always going to be a community of people, and you're going to present yourself as a particular kind of person. And this is all probably going to take place in social media. So please don't, if you're on social media right now and you're trying to be authentic and trying to be yourself, I think that's good, right? I think that's great. While you're being authentic, you have to realize that you are presenting yourself and you're positioning yourself. And so while you're positioning yourself and uniquely, be emphasizing the things that you believe uniquely, right? You might have to change the people that you are building alliances with, right? So you might have to change and rebrand according to the people that they believe what you believe about how to get success in your sub niche. You might have to change the way you write emails, right? Or if you're doing mostly post in a group, which I suggest you don't. I suggest you really be doing your building your email list. You might have to change how you do that. You might have to change how you write, because the way you write is going to reinforce your USP, right? You might have to, and again, we've already talked about this. You may have to change what it is you're offering and the way you offer it. And ultimately, you need to be changing how you educate prospects or customers, right? We'll get to that here near the end of what we're going to be talking about. Let's talk about rebranding your content. And whatever you change in terms of content has as an objective to build your list. So while you are building your brand, think about this, right? Think about this for a second. What kind of list do you want to build? You want to build a list of people that want what you have. You want to build a list of people that resonate with the way you say it. And because that's the kind of list that's going to give you momentum to sell stuff, right? So you don't just want to sell stuff to anybody. You want to sell stuff to people that want what it is you have and how you say it, how you deliver it. So your content has to work to turn people off, right? Again, I know that you don't want to hear that. Your content ought to turn some people off. It shouldn't bring in everybody. It should bring in only the people that are going to be good customers for you. It should state openly what you believe about customers and how your customers are going to benefit, right? If you don't want a certain kind of customer, make sure your copy doesn't say that you want anybody and everybody. So again, now if you've got a lot of direct response language in your sales copy, you're going to bring a certain kind of customer. And I'm not saying that direct response is wrong. I'm just saying whatever you say in your copy, you've got to expect you're going to see the customer that's going to resonate with that copy. So just because you went out and got a copywriter and it's going to convert all kinds of people to buy your product, you might not ever sell another thing to that customer. And that customer that came in that way could be your biggest headache because of the expectation that you set in your sales copy, because you went out and had somebody write sales copy that doesn't know a thing about the kind of customer you want. See, all this branding is going to matter, right? It really does matter. And for a long time, quite honestly, you might have thought that all this stuff doesn't matter. Only all that really matters is selling stuff. It matters, right? If you want to make a second or third sale, and an information marketing business is a lifestyle business. You want to have customers that you like. You want to have customers that like you, right? And that if you had to be in their city, I'm not saying that you need to go stalking your customer, but if you had to be in their city, typically you want to have the kind of customer that you'd like to go to lunch with, that you would like to have as your friend if that were possible. So you're going to have to take a stand on some stuff, right? You're going to have to take a stand in your content. You can't just write stuff and go along to get along and rebrand your content so that it says whatever the search engines need you to say. That's not going to bring you the kind of customer you want. Will it get you search rankings? Yes. Will it bring you the kind of customer you want to bring? Maybe. Right. So again, it doesn't matter what the content is. It can be written, audio, or video. Um, if you do things this way, what I'm telling you, your numbers may never be as high as if you just went out and got anybody and everybody. And you're just going to have to trust me. That's a good thing, right? Ultimately, having a few people who understand what it is you do, who will come through your funnel and buy your higher ticket stuff because they resonate with you, is going to be better than you having a bunch of people who come through your marketing funnel, haven't bought a lot of stuff, but that don't resonate with what you want. And they're taking up your time with questions and complaints and all these other things because they never understood what it is you're trying to do. So um, your market presence is going to be important, right? Rebrand your market presence. You got to be intentional on social media. So please don't use social media just as a way to catch everybody. If you're commenting on stuff, if you're liking stuff, please just don't do this stuff just to get people's attention. You need to understand the kind of person you are attracting. There are some people who, based on their star power, they can say whatever they want. Right now, if you're that kind of person, that's wonderful, right? If you've got star power in your sub niche, if that's not what you want to be known for, if you don't want to be a star power person, you don't want to be a famous person, and you're just liking things and you're saying things, then you've got to be careful about this. And you've got to be intentional about this. Maybe intentional is a better word than careful, right? Intentional is a better word than careful. I don't want you being on social media saying, "Oh, I'm really scared. I don't want to say the wrong thing." That's not the idea. I'm saying be intentional. If you're going to use social media, use it in a way to converse with people about things you want to talk about in the way you want to talk about them. Because everything that you're doing on social media is just the same as offline and in other areas off of social media. It is, you are building an audience of people who understand what it is you do and understand the way you do it. Rebranding with partnerships. When you choose to rebrand, right? However you're going to partner up with people, right? You're going to be building some kind of residual effect on your brand. So when you choose a partner, and I know that there is a mantra that the fast way to start building sales is to partner up. I'm going to tell you, do not be fast to partner up. When you choose to partner, you've got to make sure that that partner is going to be consistent with your USP. And you you can partner up to make sales, but if you don't partner up with somebody who's going to be consistent with USP, you're doing damage to your overall brand. It ought to be consistent with your customers' goals. If none of these things are going to be the case, keep looking for a partner. So don't just partner up with somebody just because you saw them, or they because they've got a big list in your sub niche. If they're moving in directions and in spaces that are contrary to the way you move, what you're doing is damage to your long-term brand. And especially true when it comes to integrity issues. So please do not partner up with somebody who has a bad reputation just to get some sales. Rebrand by building your list. This is vital. You should be always making an offer in everything you do, right? Everything you do should be you reflecting your USP. Things that are inconsistent while you're building your list is going to do damage to the brand. That's what we have been saying. Now, if you are going to be promoting some kind of affiliate offer, right? Are the people that are coming into your brand, are they going to understand what you're trying to do? Because if people are confused when you send people to something, then I will tell you this. You are doing damage to a long-term brand. And yes, you can make sales, you can make a bunch of money by promoting something, but you can run people off of a list that you've been working to build just by doing one affiliate offer that you confuse people as to why you're promoting this thing. Let me ask you a question. So if you go out and you do an affiliate promotion, have you considered this? What's going to happen when that person becomes a part of that other person's mailing list? Again, you need to be able to think about these things and just not do it just because it's going to bring you in a few dollars. Now, whatever you say about that relationship, it's going to determine how people are going to continue, whether or not going to continue to buy anything from you. So people may not even be willing to buy something from you. If you send people to somebody else's list and they get them all confused, and just because you sent them over there, and then they've got, and again, I'm not saying that your customer, they're children, right? Obviously, your customers are going to be adults, but it ought to be consistent with what you're doing. Rebrand with educational marketing. And you've got to be engaging your customers. And so you need to be doing education. This is a great way of rebranding. So whenever you're in a bind, whenever you are stuck, whenever you are in a rut and you're not making sales, create some kind of educational opportunities that you're going to give away, right? It can be a 30-day challenge. It can be a 7-day challenge. It can be a weekly workshop, whatever it's going to be, right? You're going to give away some expertise. Whenever you get stuck and things are not happening, your list is not growing, start teaching. Right? Start teaching on a regular basis. However you do it. You can do it if you want to do it in person, if you want to do it on webinar, if you want to do it by video, start teaching and giving some content away. Right? The part you give away is what helps your customer become a better customer. So ultimately, even if a person is not yet your customer, what are you going to teach them on? What are you going to train them on? You train your customers how to be a better customer. You train them how to buy from you. Now, you're not going to tell them that, but you teach them how to be successful with what it is that they're buying from you, right? So ultimately, you show them how to get success with the stuff they're buying from you so they have confidence in what they're going to buy from you the next time. Again, there's no specific way to do this as long as you do it on a regular basis. And obviously, you need to make some of the content public available. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you put content, make it public available. Some of what you need to do should be only for the people to buy stuff from you. So in other words, not everything you train on should go to YouTube. Yeah, you want people to know about it, but everything shouldn't go there. Some stuff should only be for the people who are on your list. Some stuff should only be for the people who buy more stuff. So if you got a membership, then some training is only for those people. Now, of course, you can monetize that training. So in other words, people inside your membership gets a certain kind of training, sell it to everybody else, right? I'm not saying you ought not monetize it. I'm just saying that everybody doesn't get the same level of training that you're giving to all your customers. Some people only get special things if they buy more from you. The more people spend money with you, the more they get, right? Now, especially if you've got a membership. Now, You need to be in the habit of recording education that's going to be evergreen. So again, so all your training, you should be able to use it for years on end. So when you start training on things, start thinking about, is this going to be good for something that I can reuse over and over again? You might want to take that same training and turn it into a product years from today, right? Always train. This is not something that comes natural, and it takes skill to do. Train on evergreen principles, train on foundational principles. And here's the truth of this: most people don't teach on these things, right? So if you train on foundational principles, if you train on the building blocks of your sub niche, things that are going to be true for all people for all times, most people don't take the time to invest to understand these things. And so they won't be able to train on those things. And what you're going to find is that people are going to gravitate towards you because you're teaching on these things that other people aren't teaching on. And these things are not a mystery, they're just foundational. I will tell you this: people don't have time to learn foundations. They just don't. It's true in anything. If you teach on fundamentals and foundational principles, you will be unique in the marketplace. So if you're going to train people on those things, right? And so you're going to be able to sell, information products just based on that positioning alone. Now, when you start selling stuff and you're teaching people on foundational principles, quite honestly, when you start talking about rebranding stuff to sell things, it doesn't even matter what your sales page says, right? Because you're training people on foundational principles. And when you build that level of trust and you actually send them to a recommendation, whether it's something that you are selling or an affiliate product, and I will say this to you parenthetically, you should be building a product line. You should have more than enough products to sell to people so you don't have to always sell an affiliate product, right? I'm just telling you, you're training on a regular basis. What your customer is going to be doing ultimately, and this is the way that you build a brand. This is the way you establish a brand. You are building a customer base, an audience that you will train to trust. You train to trust. So you are training people to trust. So in other words, yes, you've got to build the kind of products that are going to be true to their form, that are true to what you say about them. Yes, that is good. That is a given. But you are training to trust. You're building a bridge for trust. You're training to trust. So you want people to trust your recommendations. You want people to trust you so that when you actually go to make a recommendation to someone to buy something that you are selling, even if you have leveraged PLR in order to create it, you want people to trust you enough to buy it just because you said it. And the way you build that trust is by educational marketing. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Okay, I see one question here. I'm going to just kind of pull this over. Let me see if I can send this here. Okay, so Gail's question is, what's the best way to actually figure out what your USP is appealing to your audience? Okay, so let me take the first part of that question first. So really, when you start talking about USP, you kind of have to find a gap in the marketplace in a particular sub niche. So basically, if you know you want to serve, let's say, and the example that I always use are RV users. Well, RV users probably have a number of people in this sub market or niche who are talking to them about building a business. But there's always going to be something, if you know that market, there's something that people are not telling them. And so you got to know that market well enough to be able to figure out, well, what are people not being told? What are they not being shown? What are they not given? And then you've got to figure out how to give people whatever that is, whether it is through instruction, whether it is through your products and services. And if what you find is that people are going to buy based on that, whatever that gap is that you figure out, that becomes your USP. And then all you're doing then is you're trying to figure out how to say it. So in other words, what you got to do is you got to see into a you got to see into a specific market, or a sub niche, and you've got to make an offer based on what you see as that gap. And if people buy based on that gap, that needs to be your USP. So some of this you will not know until somebody buys something or somebody's buys something. So I know I'm not going to mention what I know your sub niche is, because I know what your sub niche is. There are a number of people who are selling to that market. So what you've got to do is you've got to look at that market and you've got to figure out, what are people not being told, or what is the angle that people are not approaching that people really do want to know, and you got to make an offer based on that. Every offer you make is not going to sell. Something you make based on your guess or what your hypothesis is going to work. Then you go back and you hit that same thing again, and when you hit it again, you start to brand around that, because again, you have discovered that. Now again, that's when you start trying to figure out, okay, can I deliver this in a way that I know is unique? Because basically, what you might find is that it's not so much what somebody wants to know. It might be based on the way you deliver it, that other people cannot get it. Other people can't do it. And so really, when you start approaching a marketplace that way, that's really the best way. You've got to figure out a gap, and you got to sell something based on that. And when you sell something based on that, that becomes the thing you brand around. So let me take the second part of your question. How often do you tweak your USP, or how long do you wait to get your USP to get seasoned? You keep tweaking until you start seeing sales based on it, right? So you're going to make a statement in order to get something to sell, and you're going to create an offer based on that, and you're going to deliver that offer in a certain way. Then what you're basically trying to find out is that second or third person that comes back to you because of that offer. You start trying to figure out, okay, was it because of the way I did this? Was it because of what I gave them? Was it because of the way I trained them? Was it because of my bonus? Why do people buy from me? Right? You go back and you do it again. And when you do it again and it starts to work, that needs to be the USP that you emphasize. The first one. Now, again, when you're an information marketer, the good thing about it is you can have several things that you can mention as a USP on a specific product. In terms of your brand, though, you will then start to be known for something. But on a particular product, you can mention a number of things in your bullets that can be USPs. Because a product USP can have several USPs, but a brand USP, which is the way you do business, that's going to be kind of based on your repeat customers, the people that are coming back to you, or the people that are buying from you a second or third time, or that people who are coming back to you when you make a certain thing or do a certain thing. Okay, does that answer your question, Gail? Okay, any other questions? Any other questions? This is a great question. Any other question based on rebranding PLR? Because all of this is going to be based on the audience, right? It's all audience based. Within an audience, it's going to be, you got to separate yourself, right? You got to find a way to separate yourself. And when you find a way to separate yourself, I tell people this all the time, and I know it doesn't seem quite real. You do not have to redo my voice when you get the brand right. If you get the brand right, you can tell people that somebody else did these videos. Listen, I partner with a training company that does these videos, and we go get the best videos. We go and get things that'll show you how to do this. When you get the brand right, people will love it that you did that, right? So it's not about trying to convince people that you know all this stuff. That's not going to be sustainable over time. And what you if you do that, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd love that you come back and get our videos, but I would rather you come get our videos, because what you're doing is you're rebranding a a member area or a membership or something that builds your marketing presence, and you're spending your time based on the marketing and not so much on the mechanics of redoing PLR videos, right? That's the way I look at that, right? Any other questions? Okay, everybody. Well, thanks very much for hanging out with me here. So give me 48 to 72 hours um, to edit this session. Hope that this has been helpful to you as a PLR user, and that it will be helpful to your customers also. Have a great night and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.